Resident Evil 4 is one of the best games ever created, and that's coming from somebody who has no nostalgia bias for the game. Back in 2017, I played it for the first time because, if you didn't know, I'm a little baby. I couldn't handle anything remotely horror-like, and that was the first time I ever played Resident Evil 4. Back then, I played the best version of Resident Evil 4. It was fluid, it was easy to aim, but the only drawback was that the blue coins looked like little blue pixels on the screen, so they were kind of hard to find. So in honor of the 20th anniversary of the original release of Resident Evil 4, I went back to play the best version of Resident Evil 4 in 2024.
I was wondering if you might recognize the girl in this photograph?
¿Qué carajo estás haciendo aquí? ¡Lárgate, cabrón!
Sorry to have bothered you.
Playing this game marked a great time for me in my gaming history because back in 2016 I had my final year exams for secondary school and then I started college, so gaming kind of fell to the wayside for me. I kind of fell out of love with it and I slowly started to get back into it across 2016, and then obviously the Switch came out in 2017 and I just fell back in love with gaming then. But as you do in college, I didn't have that much money, so near the middle and end of 2017, I had to resort to buying used games in CEX, and the best thing to do is to buy really old games because, you could buy 4 games for €20 on the Wii or the PS2 or PS3, and I sort of fell back in love with my Wii back then. I started to play Red Steel 2, which is a fantastic game, and Resident Evil 4 was one of them games. I think I spent like €8 on it. I still have the receipt in the box, so I bought it near the end of 2017. My friend David really wanted me to play it because he absolutely loves the game, and I was reluctant because I know Resident Evil 4 isn't exactly a horror game. It's a bit more action horror. There are some scary sections to it, but I was reluctant because I couldn't really handle horror. So I put on my big boy trousers and I finally played it. I finally faced my fears, and I know what you're thinking. Oh, people usually face their fears when they're like 11, 12, 13, they're kind of becoming a teenager. But no, I faced my fears when I was 19. That's when I got into Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 4, and it spawned a love for these horror games that when I do have the balls to play them, I really enjoy them. But straight away, back then, and going back to capture footage now on the Wii, on my CRT, I absolutely fell in love, and it's mostly to do with that opening village sequence. It's iconic. It's one of the best encounters ever designed in games because it gives you the best parts of Resident Evil 4 in like the first 25 or 30 minutes. You first get introduced to a couple of enemies, you learn the ropes and how to fight them and all that, and it's kind of tense. Then you get into the village and there are so many enemies running around and you're running around like a headless chicken. Now obviously I'm pretty well versed in this game now. I think this is my 3rd or 4th time playing it, plus I also played the remake once through normally and then a bit on PSVR 2 as well, so I'm well versed in this game. But even still, I know what's happening. I know the Chainsaw Man is going to spawn. It's still really, really tense. And back then when I played this, I'm pretty sure I knew what this encounter was. I'm pretty sure I knew that the Chainsaw Man was going to come out, but still, when he comes out and you see him for the first time, you have to jump out the window or you have to knock the ladder down, you have to find the shotgun. There's just so much going on that you have to think about. And I absolutely adore this encounter. It's one of my favorite encounters of any game ever created. And even now playing it, yes, I am way better at the game, but I'm running around. I know where the shotgun is. I know where the grenades are. I know how to kill the Chainsaw Man. I also know that there is a way to end the encounter early if you shoot the bell off in the distance. Now, I'm not sure if I can do that now. I think I might need the sniper rifle to do it, but that's just so cool, and I feckin' love this encounter. And one thing that I did with this playthrough, I didn't want to go back and beat the game because I guess my main criticism of Resident Evil 4 that it definitely is a bit too long. It's an absolutely phenomenal game, but the island drags a bit, and there's also certain sections in the middle of the game, and the castle specifically, that kind of feel like they go on for a bit too long. So I wasn't in the mood of rebeating this game, especially because I have my save file from 2017 on my Wii, and I think it's like 16 and a half hours long, and I'm not putting that back into this game because I've just beaten it so much. But what I did was I started it up, I did the first village section to capture some footage, and then I went to a later save file in the castle, and I was walking around it, and I forgot just how creepy this place is. You hear the little like moans and groans and the chants of the cultists walking around. You're getting hunted by these cultists, and then you go down into the sewers, which was just randomly the part that I was at. And as I was walking around, I was like, I think I remember something weird about this. I noticed this little shadow moving along the ground. I'm like, oh crap, I remember. It's these invisible bugs. And even though this game isn't particularly scary, like you won't jump out of your seat, what it does so well is that it creates that tension where you will be genuinely clenching your controller so hard, your palms will be sweaty because you know around the corner you will have some crazy encounter with two of those big guys with the Wolverine claws, or you'll have some invisible enemies running after you, or you'll have some cultists with shields and crossbows, and it's just so tense. And it's one of my favorite things about this game. Now, the Wii version was the first version that I played, and it's also the best version. Now, I don't think that's a take. I think most people agree. And it's for a lot of reasons, because on this retro journey, I've run into some hardware problems and some peripheral problems, because that's just going to happen. Old consoles will kind of have some issues, or your controller mightn't be amazing because the analog stick might feel a bit weird, or the X button might feel a bit weird. And yes, if you have a lot of money to throw at stuff, you can get stuff cleaned, you can get them sent off, you can buy newer, cleaner versions of all this sort of stuff. But I'm doing this on a budget right now. So I have all my old controllers on like the PS2 and the GameCube. The GameCube one is in good nick, but the PS2 controllers, they all have some form of an issue. One of them, the analog stick is a bit ropey, so I took it apart, I cleaned it. Now the analog stick is fixed, but the X button is a bit ropey, and I know that if I took it apart, I would, I don't know, mess up the pause button, and then the analog stick would work, but now the triggers would be a bit ropey, or something like that. So going back and playing older games on older hardware, there will always be problems with things like that. Now with most games, it's fine because you can usually take your time, or maybe they're not as tense. But I can only imagine how difficult I would find this game on, say, a PS2 with a PS2 analog stick, because last year, going back and playing Time Splitters on the PS2, I realised the analog sticks aren't great and it's quite difficult to aim. And then I played Resistance on the PS3, and even there's definitely some issues with the right analog stick. They just improved the analog sticks as time went on. The DualShock 4 is probably the best controller ever made. It just works. There's no fancy bells and whistles. It's just a great controller. The DualSense though kind of went a bit bulky, and all the haptic stuff is just a bit of a gimmick. So going back and playing all these old games on controllers that, even when they're in their best conditions, don't have great analog sticks, they just don't feel very good. So I can only imagine how awful I would be at this game on the GameCube or the PS2. But with the Wii, you don't have any of them problems. Aiming is as easy as using the pointer on your Wiimote. And it's insane just how well the Wiimote was made for a game like this, because there are certain third-party games on the Wii that don't control as well as their PS2 or even PS3 counterparts, because you just don't have as much control, because the nunchuck is a bit restrictive, and the Wiimote, yes, you have A and B, the D-pad is in a bit of a crap location, and 1 and 2 are nearly impossible to press when you're holding the Wiimote normally. But for Resident Evil 2, all you need is a button to access your menu, which is the minus button. You need a button to reload, which is down button on the D-pad. You need A and B to aim and shoot. Then you just need one analog stick and then the C and Z button. And it's almost like this game was perfectly designed for the Wiimote and nunchuck. And it just works so well. It makes it such an enjoyable experience. Yes, it's still quite tense. The tank controls are obviously not the tank controls of old. It's not as tense as, say, Resident Evil 1 or 2. But there is something to how restrictive the nunchuck feels, and it kind of adds a small bit to the tension, while also making it feel like the game is actually smooth to control and not like getting in your way. There's always a novelty to playing more mature games on the Wii. Like I played Red Steel 2, I played Mad World, I played Resident Evil 4, and a few other games that were either gory or had cursing in them or whatever. And I'm used to playing the Wii and playing, you know, Mario Kart, or I'm playing Mario Galaxy, or I'm playing Donkey Kong Country, or I'm playing, you know, these kiddie games, and I love the Wii for that. But there will always be a novelty to playing a game like this on the Wii. It just feels like it shouldn't really be a thing, but I don't know, it's just cool. It's funny now because I played the PSVR 2 version of Resident Evil 4 Remake, and it just works so well, having two hands and being able to have a gun or a knife in the other. And it's almost like Nintendo were slightly ahead of the curve with the nunchuck and the Wiimote, because it's a control scheme that just works so well for this game. And then it almost feels like the PSVR 2 was like, you know, an updated modern version of playing the Wii version of Resident Evil 4, and that's why I do think the best way to play Resident Evil 4 Remake is actually the PSVR 2 version, even though I will never have the balls to finish it, because feck the regenerators in VR, and feck that tension in VR, because VR makes everything way more scary and way more tense. Resident Evil 4 on the Wii is the best version of the base game to play. Technically, it's not the 20-year anniversary of that game, it's the 20-year anniversary of the GameCube version, But, you know, GameCube, Wii, both Nintendo consoles. And even though I only went back and played a couple of hours to capture some footage, I just had a great time going back to this. It's a great memory for me, and it just proves that, yes, nostalgia does have a lot of power. A lot of people like games that they played when they were younger, and maybe they don't hold up as well today. But the fact that I played this game in 2017, I'm pretty sure either just before or just after Resident Evil 7, goes to show just how strong this game is. It really, truly is one of the best games ever made, and if you're looking for an older way to play it, it is on Steam, it's on PS4, it's on Xbox, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's on Switch, it's on all modern platforms, but if you really want truly the best version of this game, then go play the Wii version. It's fantastic. Thank you so much for watching. There'll be loads of videos this year. Right now, I'm working on a Donkey Kong Country video because Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is coming to the Switch. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.